Part 115. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1146. Although people are awake, the sadness and pain in the dream overflow into reality. She couldn't stop crying, that kind of sadness almost drowned her whole body. Murong Cheng was startled awake, stood up and found Mu Ziyi sobbing, and immediately asked, "What's wrong?" "Stomach pain." "No." Mu Ziyi shook her head and replied with a strong nasal voice. "No." Murong Cheng hugged her nervously and wiped her tears. "Why are you crying when you're so good? What's the matter?" Mu Ziyi choked up and explained, "It's really all right, it's just a nightmare." Murong Cheng heard this, heaved a long sigh, and said, "The number of times you cried after pregnancy is more than the sum of your previous 20 years. "That's not true." Mu Ziyi looked at him with tears in his eyes. "When I was bullied by you, I cried quite a lot." "Can that be called bullying?" "That is called love," Murong Cheng said. Mu Ziyi scolded him, "Perverted love." Yes, I'm perverted, I'm perverted." Murong Cheng coaxed her to lie down. "Go to sleep, you don't sleep at night, why are you arguing with the pervert?" Mu Ziyi pursed her lips and lay down. Her stomach was too big, and she was uncomfortable no matter how she lay down. She adjusted her posture and lay on her side next to Murong Cheng, closing her eyes. "Thinking of the dream just now, I still have lingering fears." Mu Ziyi stretched out her finger and poked Murong Cheng. "Husband." Murong Cheng opened his eyes. It was a little funny. The reaction of the pregnant woman's Indeo was also funny. In the past he was always called by his first name. "What happened today?" Mu Ziyi whispered, "In the future, we will be too old to walk, can you let me die first?" When she thought of the scene in her dream, she felt terrified, and her tone became even more sour. "I don't want to be the one who stays." Murong Cheng smiled, lowered his head and kissed her, and said generously, "Okay, anyway, it's not the first time for me to collect your body, I know her very well." Mu Ziyi. After a moment of silence, she was suddenly discouraged. "Forget it, you should die first, and I'll collect your body." "What are you worrying about in the middle of the night?" Murong Cheng stroked her belly. "Don't you have children? In the future, when we get old, we will die together. Let them worry about collecting the corpse." Mu Ziyi said angrily, "What are you talking about, as if the child was born just to collect the corpse for us? Otherwise, what's the use of giving birth to them? You still say?" Mu Ziyi stretched out her hand to pinch him, but she didn't know if she moved too much. Her stomach suddenly hurt. Mu Ziyi gasped in pain, her face turned pale for a moment. Murong Cheng asked, "Kicked you again?" Mu Ziyi covered her stomach and glared at him. "They must have heard it. They are protesting." Murong Cheng felt sorry for Mu Ziyi at first, but he was overjoyed to see her complaining in earnest. Mu Ziyi was depressed. Murong Cheng couldn't spit ivory out of his mouth, but she was the one being kicked, and the worst thing was that he was still laughing. Laugh. The next morning, Mu Ziyi got up to wash up, then slowly went downstairs to have breakfast. When they walked into the living room, they saw Bai Wei and Aunt Jean walking in from outside talking and laughing. "Mom, what are you doing?" "I just dried the sweet-scented osmanthus," Bai Wei asked with a smile while holding a small basket of sweet-scented osmanthus. "Do you smell the fragrance?" Mu Ziyi nodded, "Yes, it smells so good." Aunt Jean went to the kitchen and brought out a clean glass bottle. Bai Wei spread a thin layer of sweet-scented osmanthus in the bottle, and sprinkled a layer of sugar on top of the sweet-scented osmanthus. Mu Ziyi curiously lay on the side watching. Bai Wei spread the sugar and then the sweet-scented osmanthus, repeating this process until the glass bottle was full. Mu Ziyi asked, "Can we make sweet-scented osmanthus candy in this way?" Bai Wei slowly poured some white wine into the bottle, and said with a smile, "Yes, it can be eaten for a long time after it's done. Musy I smelled the fragrance in the glass bottle, and she couldn't help but ask, when can I eat it? Well, it will take 4 or 5 months, and I will be able to eat it next year. Musy I's eyes widened, next year. Yes, Byway poked her forehead with a smile, I'm going to be a mother soon, and I'm still like a greedy cat. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1147. Musy I hugged her forehead and cried out for herself, I used to be really not greedy, but I changed after I got pregnant. Aunt Jean on the side smiled and said, Madam is hungry, it's all my fault, I'll go and bring breakfast here. After all, I went to the kitchen. Musy I moved to Byway's side, hugging her arms coquettishly, I still want to drink yesterday's porridge. It's too late to make it now. When you come back in the afternoon, Mom will make it for you, okay? Good, Musy I nodded, still holding Byway's arm tightly. Byway smiled and said, how come the older you get, the more you look like a child? When Murong Cheng came downstairs, what caught his eyes was the scene of the mother and daughter getting bored together. Both of them were the most important women in his life. Murong Cheng's heart softened immediately, the rage from yesterday seemed to have disappeared. Maybe Musy I is right, he really needs time. Each of them needs time. Aunt Jean brought out breakfast. Murong Cheng walked over calmly, sat down, and had breakfast with them. I'll send you to the procuratorate for an internship in a while, and then go to the airport, he said while eating. Xianghai still has some things to deal with, and I'll be back on the weekend. Musy I said, that's right, you are the mayor now, you can't stay in Jingling forever. Murong Chen nodded slightly, and looked at Byway, Mom, when I'm not here, please help me keep an eye on her, and don't let her run around. Hearing this, Byway looked at Musy I's belly very seriously, and agreed with her son, it's true that you shouldn't run around, the twins start early, and you can't tell when they will be born. After finishing speaking, he asked Musy I again, how long do you want to practice? 2 months of internship, Musy I replied, internship in the first 2 months of this semester, and writing a thesis in the last 2 months, probably writing about what I learned through the internship. That's okay, counting the time, it will be activated in about 2 months. Byway was relieved a little, and finally smiled again, after the baby is born, the family will be more lively in the future. Murong Cheng's thin lips were slightly raised, and he looked happy. He didn't have any feelings for children, but after hearing what Byway said, he couldn't help but yearn for that kind of life. This breakfast was probably the happiest Murong Cheng had in recent days. After the meal, Murong Cheng sent Musy I to the procuratorate. When he was about to get off the car, he took Musy I's shoulders, kissed her lightly on the center of her brow, then lowered down and kissed her belly, reluctant to part. When I'm not around, you have to be good and listen to your mother, he said seriously. Musy I smiled, it's strange if you can understand. Murong Cheng leaned his ear against her stomach, and raised his eyes to look at her, don't you always say I'm a pervert? Then my child is a little pervert, so he must understand. Nonsense again, Musy I pulled his ear. The more you say it, the more it goes too far. How can a father say that his own flesh and blood is a pervert? Musy I was angry and funny. It was probably because Murong Cheng was always messed up, so he didn't feel much sadness about this parting. After getting off the car, Musy I walked into the procuratorate, and met the old lady again at the door. There were a lot of people coming in and out of the gate of the compound, but no one paid attention to it. The old lady didn't stop people when she saw them like before. She just held the photo and stood silently at the foot of the wall, as if a little desperate and depressed, but also like not reconciled, unwilling to give up, and helpless without knowing what to do. Musy I looked down at the time, it was already 9 o'clock. She hesitated a little, looked away, and walked into the procuratorate. The work is still those jobs, and the colleagues are still those colleagues, but for some reason, she is particularly out of shape today. It seems that there is something unsteady in my heart. After sorting out a document, Musa recalled her nightmare last night. In the dream, she was gradually aging, like that old lady, and finally she was alone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1148. When you are the only one left in the world, it seems that doing anything becomes superfluous. That being the case, why bother to come to the procuratorate day after day, looking for the impossible hope? Musi thinks that someone should persuade the old lady that morality and law are two different things. You can condemn someone for being immoral, but you can't punish the other for being immoral. At least in Hue Estate, the act of killing cats and cruelty to dogs is only immoral, not against the law. Musi thought for a while, and took out a thick case study material. The colleagues around me saw it and asked curiously, "What are you looking for?" Musi replied while flipping through the book, "I'm looking to see if there are any cases where pets are regarded as specific souvenirs." The colleague immediately understood, "Do you want to help that old lady increase the claim amount? As long as cases related to pets are mentioned, everyone will think of the old lady outside the procuratorate. That's right, that dog is not a rare breed. If you sue based on property rights infringement, 500 is already the limit." Musi sighed, "It would be much easier if I could claim spiritual compensation." Not all cases can request spiritual compensation. The law clearly stipulates 4 situations. Only cases that meet these 4 situations can request spiritual compensation. And one of them is a specific commemorative item with a symbolic personality. When it is damaged by infringement, the owner of the item can sue for compensation for mental damage. However, it is not known whether the judge will support pets as specific commemorative items with symbolic meaning of personality. Several other colleagues in the office also gathered around and discussed together. Everyone felt that spiritual compensation is an angle that can be played, and it is worth a try. Someone also poured cold water. "I don't think the old lady wants money. She treats that dog like her own son and daughter. Think about it, how much money can you be willing to pay for your son and daughter who were killed?" After hearing this, everyone fell silent. After a while, someone said, "The old lady wants the other party to go to jail. Sentence a man to jail for killing a dog. How can that be?" The colleagues dispersed and returned to their respective positions to work. Musi pursed her lips and thought, she felt that she should talk to the old lady face to face, no matter what the previous prosecutor did. She hoped to explain every possibility of this case clearly to the other party. Hope is indeed slim. Even if it goes to court, the final result may not be more than 500. But if nothing is done, then 500 will always be 500, nothing more, nothing will change. Musi thought it over clearly, got up and went out, wanting to find that old lady. Unexpectedly, the old lady who always lingered at the gate of the procuratorate was not there at this time. Musi walked a few steps forward, and when she was about to give up, she saw a hunchbacked figure across the street, dragging a hemp leather bag, bending over to pick up the mineral water bottle on the ground. It's the old man. Elderly people bend over, and young people are completely different. You need to support your legs with both hands, bend down little by little, pick up the mineral water bottle, then support your legs, and slowly straighten your body with strength. It is said to be straight, but it is not straight at all. It is still in a half-bowed state. Every movement is very slow, like a rusty clock, and every step is extremely difficult. It was very strange, Musi thought of herself. Since her belly got bigger and bigger, it became more and more difficult for her to bend down. Once she wanted to pick up something, but she didn't bend down for a long time. When Murong Cheng saw it, he laughed at her facelessly for a long time. But now, looking at the old man in front of her, she couldn't smile at all. Muzi walked over and asked, "Old lady, are you going to sue again?" The old man raised his head suspiciously, looked at Muzi, his eyes fell on her conspicuous belly, and then moved to his chest to find the badge. Muzi said, "I'm still an intern and I don't wear a badge, but I can help you fight for an appeal. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again." Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1149. There was doubt in the old man's eyes. She was old and had little education in her early years. She only knew that prosecutors wore badges with specific patterns, just like the badges on police uniforms. Muzi doesn't have this kind of mark on her body, she has a big belly, and she's still practicing. The old man was not sure whether the other party could help him. She hesitated and said, "I'm not asking for money, I want him to stand trial." Sure enough, as a colleague said, the old lady's purpose is not money, she wants to seek justice for her dog, she wants an explanation. This is actually a very simple idea, but it is difficult in today's legal society. The law is established to protect human rights. In the final analysis, it serves people. How can you punish a human being because of an animal? Muzi thought for a while and asked her, "Can I see your photo?" The photo was placed close to the body in his pocket, the old man took it out and handed it to Muzi carefully. A common 6-inch photo shows an old man hobbling forward with a bag of plastic bottles in the sunset, followed by a white puppy with a mineral water bottle in his mouth, his tail up, looking very cheerful. The shooting angle is very unique, and the light and shadow tones are excellent. This is a professional level photographic work, which is very touching. "Old lady, who took the photo for you?" Muzi returned the photo to her. "A college student," she said. "She wanted to take a picture and post it on the internet, but I don't really understand." The old man said slowly, "He is a good boy with a good heart, and every time he comes to see me, he brings ham sausage to Dang Dang." The old lady took back the photo, rubbed her fingertips on the dog's position, and said in a hoarse voice, "They said that it was just a dog that died, and the other party pleaded guilty, and the judge won't spend any more time trying it, but I think this is not right. I don't know anything about those laws, but I just think it's wrong. Dang Dang is dead, why is there only 500 yuan left?" After the old lady finished speaking, she let out a long sigh, feeling extremely powerless, as if she had given up hope. Muzi pursed her lips and said, "Madam, let's try again. The worst is nothing more than this, try again, it doesn't matter what the loss is." The old lady thought about it too, nodded slowly, then squinted her eyes slightly to look at Muzi. "Which prosecutor are you?" Muzi slightly puffed up her chest, her bright eyes were clear, and said with a smile, "My name is Sidhu Muzi. I'm still an intern. I will become a prosecutor in the future." The old lady smiled slightly and praised her, "It's amazing to be a prosecutor at such a young age." Muzi smiled. Prosecutors are nothing special, but she very much hopes that she can become a great prosecutor. Muzi filed a lawsuit in court for the case of the pet being tortured and killed. The judge sat on a high seat, looked at the documents in his hand, was a little confused, raised his head and looked at Muzi. "What's going on here?" "A dog is dead." Muzi nodded, "Yes, Your Honor, as you can see." The judge looked the other way, with a questioning look. The defense lawyer stood up helplessly, "Your Honor, my client has already pleaded guilty." "You didn't reach a plea agreement?" the judge asked. Muzi replied, "Your Honor, we cannot reach a consensus on the sentencing and the amount of compensation." The defense lawyer almost sighed, "Your Honor, we cannot accept the sentence. The judge was also a little confused. What do you mean? She wants my client to serve her sentence in prison. The lawyer was helpless and explained, it's just a dog, Your Honor, we can only accept a certain amount of compensation. Musei continued with a serious look, Your Honor, I don't think that is an ordinary dog. The defendant used extreme means to cruelly damage a specific commemorative item with symbolic personality, causing great harm to the victim's family. I request the court to hold a formal trial. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1150. The judge rubbed his eyebrows with a headache. A dog, and the victim's family. Really not kidding? Your Honor, my client is willing to plead guilty, the defense lawyer emphasized again. Considering the judicial economic cost, I think we can directly sentence the sentence now. I refuse. Musei did not hesitate, we hope to have a trial. The judge said anxiously, since the defendant has pleaded guilty, is there still a need for this case to be tried? Musei replied, Your Honor, the reason why the defense wants to go directly to the sentencing is because the defense lawyers think that you will not sentence the defendant to prison. Of course, even if you pronounce the sentence like that, I can understand it very well, but I think that when you, after knowing the facts of the whole case, you may come to a different verdict. The judge raised his forehead with a headache, and frowned, I have already learned the facts. The fact is that the defendant killed a dog, and the defendant has pleaded guilty. Do we really need to waste time on this matter? The lawyer said coolly at the side, the purpose of the prosecution's trial is to win the sympathy of the jury and use the pressure of public opinion to put pressure on the judge in order to obtain a sentence that is more favorable to her. Your Honor, the defense lawyers are questioning your professional standards. Musei retorted immediately, a qualified judge will stick to the justice of the law and will never be affected by any emotional public opinion. I believe you are a qualified judge. And excellent judges. The judge was speechless and sighed, thank you for your compliment, Miss Sidhu, please come to my office now. Musei followed the judge to the office. When he arrived at the office, the judge loosened his neckline, sat down behind his desk a little tiredly, picked up a water glass and took a sip of water, only to find that he was completely cold. His mood got worse, he sighed and got up again, and went to the water dispenser to get hot water. Miss Sidhu, your father is a good person. He was careful and cautious all the way and finally achieved today's achievements. Even before he became president, his efforts for the judiciary are obvious to all. While waiting for the hot water, the judge spoke slowly. But your actions today, I think, are very unwise. Yes, Your Honor, Musei replied. The judge glanced at her and sighed slightly. After waiting for a while, the hot water was ready. The judge took a cup, slowly returned to his seat, and sat down. Do you know how many cases I have to handle in this position? The judge asked her. Rape, murder, robbery, torture, drug trafficking. Last year, the total number of cases in Jingling City Court reached more than 11,000. Do you know how many cases have been scheduled until next year? Now you are asking for a trial for a dog, Miss Sidhu, I really hope you can think about it seriously. Musei pursed her lips and said in a sincere tone, Your Honor, I promise not to delay too long and keep it as short as possible. I really need this opportunity. The judge was silent, as if he was thinking or hesitating. After a long time, he asked Musei, you are still an intern, aren't you? Yes, Your Honor. Do you plan to become a prosecutor in the future? Yes. Did you know that all your performance during the internship will be recorded and used as the basis for evaluation when you graduate? Musei inhaled slowly, lowered her head, yes, I know. The judge sighed and said, perhaps you will lose your qualifications to be a prosecutor because of this case. Even so, do you still insist? Musei opened her eyes slightly. Frankly speaking, she didn't think that far, she just, it's just that the matter is in front of her eyes, she habitually wants to fight again. What if she succeeds? One has to have some hope, doesn't he? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1151. I said, Your Honor, I think the significance of the public trial of this case is far greater than itself. I hope you can agree. The judge took a deep look at her and nodded slightly. Okay, since you insist, but I won't give you too much time. At most, I will only call one witness. I nodded. Thank you, Your Honor. Returning to the court again, the judge announced that the trial will start next week, and the jury will begin to form from now on. I's colleagues soon learned of the news. Everyone was surprised, and after being surprised, they were happy for I. Most of them chose to become prosecutors because they embraced justice and ideals. Seeing that evil deeds go unpunished, they feel somewhat bitter. It would be great if he could be sentenced to jail. People who abuse animals should be severely punished. Most prisoners have an early experience of cruelty to animals, especially those serial killers. Almost every one of them started from cruelty to animals. But can he really go to jail? Everyone was silent in unison. The situation is obviously not optimistic. The biggest obstacle in front of us is the lack of relevant legal support. No amount of righteous indignation could suddenly write a law for this case. Another person said, anyway, if the judge didn't reject it, it means there is a chance. These words seemed to cheer up, and the atmosphere was a little more relaxed. Someone half-jokingly said, the judge is still very face-saving. After all, the person who wants to appeal is Siddhu. The joke was not high-level, and it was a bit of a satire on privilege. The man realized it after he finished speaking, and his face was embarrassing. I didn't mind, and nodded with a smile. Yes, I'm the president's daughter. It's the first court case during the internship period. Your Excellency, it's not good to dampen my enthusiasm. Everyone laughed in good faith. After get off work, I went home with a laptop and a bunch of documents. Bai Wei made porridge for her, so she didn't bother to go upstairs and sat on the sofa in the living room, eating porridge while fiddling with her laptop. She took the picture of the old lady with her mobile phone, searched for similar pictures on the internet, and the results came out immediately. This photo was reposted a lot on Weibo, and without much effort, I found the source, the personal homepage of a college student majoring in photography. Continue to scroll down, and you can see more photos of the old lady and the puppy. Obviously, the college student took more than one photo. After a rough flip, there are about a dozen photos. I downloaded the photos one by one, packaged and saved them, and then forwarded the photos to Shenkong along with the web page link. Help me print the photos, the size of the magazine is enough, and then check the identity of the user, make an appointment, I want to meet her. I gave orders unhurriedly, and Bai Wei came over with a small bowl of peeled pistachios. I hung up the phone and reached out to eat the pistachios in the bowl. Bai Wei sighed, it's too early for you to have children. Look, you don't have a leisurely time when you are pregnant, why don't you wait until you graduate to have children? Before I could reply, Bai Wei murmured to herself again, when you guys got married, I should have persuaded you a bit. It's strange, what was I doing at that time? I's heart skipped a beat, her voice raised unconsciously, it's getting late. Bai Wei was stunned and stared at her blankly. It's getting late. I pursed her lips, diverting Bai Wei's attention. Mom, look, my brother is almost 30. Murong Cheng will be 28 years old in 1 month, so he is indeed not young. I thought about it silently, if she hadn't been reborn, she looks 29 years old. Uh, uh, not too small. Thinking about how old I am, I still act like a baby in front of Byway all day long, it's quite pretentious. Musi I sighed, shook her head, and focused on the case again. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1152. Frankly speaking, this case has little chance of winning, and it is very likely to lose. But thinking of that old man, thinking of her lonely old nightmare, if it were her, everyone around her would leave one by one, only a dog was left to depend on each other, and in the end even this dog was taken away by others. Musi couldn't imagine the pain. Always do something. She needs to do something, otherwise she will feel uncomfortable. If Murong Chen knew about this, he would probably have to scold her again. The Virgin Mary is sick. As Musi I thought about it, the corners of her mouth could not help but curl up slightly. After laughing for a while, I felt that I was really sick. How could I be happy after being scolded? Musi I rubbed her face, adjusted her expression. 2 or 3 days later, Musi I and the female college student who took the photo met in a cafe. The female college student only knew that there was a prosecutor who was going to file a lawsuit for the old lady, but she didn't know Musi I's identity. When she saw the real person, she was stunned. "Oh my God," she exclaimed, "I recognize you. You are Situ Musi." Looking around, the female college student immediately covered her mouth and realized that she had lost her composure. "Sorry, I was so surprised." Musi I smiled. "So I am so famous. I saw your news on the internet. Aren't you a lawyer?" "How did you become a prosecutor?" the female college student asked one after another. "With you helping the old lady fight this lawsuit, you should be able to win, right? I know you've never lost, right?" "I'm still an intern." Musi I felt slightly embarrassed. "It doesn't matter whether you win or lose in this case, all we can do is try to help the old lady get more compensation." The female college student was stunned. "Not going to jail. Sentence to prison is an ideal goal, we can strive for it, but it's best not to have too much hope," Musi I simply explained. The other party was disappointed. Musi I pursed her lips and smiled. She didn't mind, and directly explained the purpose of her visit. "I have already learned about the general situation of the case from the old lady, and I heard that you often come to feed the dogs, and you are relatively close. After the incident, it was you I accompanied the old lady to report the case, so I want to hear what you have to say." The female college student cheered up when she heard the words, "Do you need me to testify in court?" "I'm fine." Musi I shook her head lightly. "Then you plan to let the old lady testify in court?" The female college student frowned. "No, she will not be able to bear it when she is old." "I have other plans," Musi I said. "I won't let the old lady appear in court, don't worry about that. The old man is nearly 80 years old, and even if he is healthy enough to withstand the fierce cross-examination in court, he may not be able to explain the facts of the case clearly. After he gets old, his thinking and expression skills will always be weaker. Especially for widowed elderly people, who have no communication partners on weekdays, and it is even more difficult to communicate." The female college student couldn't help asking, "Don't you have to call witnesses in a lawsuit?" Musi I smiled and said, "Tell me about what happened that day." Only then did the other party realize that he had strayed off topic again. He smiled embarrassedly, then solemnly said, "I finished class that day, and I brought ham sausage to feed Dang Dang as usual. It is very smart, and usually stays at school. There is a litter box nearby. If someone throws a drink bottle, it will take it home. But when I went there, I saw the old lady looking for Dang Dang, saying that Dang Dang hadn't come home all night. The old lady asked everywhere, but no one saw her. She was so anxious that she sat on the side of the road and cried. When she said this, her eyes turned red, and she continued, then, we found Dang Dang on the street behind the restaurant. Its stomach was trampled to pieces, and it is already dead. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1153. Probably the scene at that time was vividly remembered. She started to cry, wiped the tears with a tissue on the table, and said sadly, Dang Dang is so pitiful, it never bites or barks, why would someone treat it this way? Muzi pursed her lips, waited for the other party's emotions to calm down, and asked, what happened next? The old grandma couldn't bear it at the time and fainted. I sent her to the hospital and called the police. The owner of the nearby restaurant knew the person who took Dang Dang away, but it was useless. The police asked a few words casually and took him away. Let it go. Don't catch him at all. Speaking of this, the female college student was still very angry, and said bitterly, I couldn't be more angry, so I posted Dang Dang's photo on the internet together with that man's photo. Posted online, Muzi was stunned. Citizens' personal information is protected by law, and netizens have no right to disclose other people's personal information on the internet, otherwise it is an infringement. It has been deleted now. The female college student smiled sarcastically. He sued me, not only to delete the photo, but also to pay him 3,000 yuan. Heh, he doesn't have to bear any responsibility for trampling other people's dogs to death. I sent a photo but got accused. Muzi was silent for a while, then asked her, Dang Dang's photos are backed up. Well, I have it in my phone. She flipped through the phone and held it out for Muzi to see. When Muzi saw it clearly, her face turned pale immediately. She turned her eyes away and covered her chest, only feeling that the air seemed to be a little muddy, which was disgusting. It was completely different from the puppy I saw before. Its white hair was completely soaked in blood, its whole body was interlaced with red and yellow, bloody. Muzi didn't dare to take a closer look. She had seen more horrific corpses before, but she didn't dare to look at them now, not because of the miserable death of the puppy, but because she thought of that poor, hopeless old man. After waking up from a coma, he staggered back to pick up his dog, carefully sewed up the rotten intestines, washed off the sticky plasma and mucous membranes on the hair, and then combed gently, slowly, to make it become as clean and beautiful as ever. When doing these things, does the old lady cry while doing it? She wants justice for her dog. Justice. The only fairness is the 500 yuan that the other party is willing to pay, and the sneering sneer, are you confused? It's just a dog. It's just a dog. In fact, when Muzi first heard about this case, she thought the same way. Just a dog, is it necessary? Muzi took a deep breath, suppressed the chaotic thoughts in her heart, and told the bodyguard as calmly as possible, save the photo. Then he showed a smile and reached out to the female college student, thank you today. The two shook hands, and the female college student asked, do I really not need to appear in court? Muzi smiled and shook her head. The bodyguard escorted her out of the cafe, but the female college student chased her out and asked again, will you win? Muzi half-jokingly replied, whether I can win or not, I can't be cowardly. Situ Musa wants to sue a dog. The news media quickly found a new hotspot, and the pens of the reporters were ready to move, just waiting for how to capitalize the close-up on the day of the trial. There are two sides to attention, and there will be no shortage of praise and criticism. Some people expect her to be a blockbuster again, to satisfy people's fantasies about a genius legal lady. Some people expect her to fall from the high clouds, and it's better to fall into the mud. Anyway, watching the excitement is not a big deal. Situ Yan naturally knew about this. He called Muzi and asked, why is it so abnormal every time you take over a case? Muzi was silent, and asked him back after a while, are there any normal cases in the procuratorate? A case means breaking the law. Illegal means abnormal behavior. Murder, arson, robbery, and murder, is this kind of case normal? I felt that she just did what should be done, and it was people's prejudice that demonized her. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1154. October, the second month of I's internship. Her belly was almost 7 months old, and the weather turned colder and her clothes were thicker. I felt heavy every day, making her breathless. The number of bodyguards and vehicles accompanying them has doubled, and just in case, an additional medical staff has been added to the team. Bai Wei said that she is in good physical condition, so don't be nervous, just wait for the birth with peace of mind. I was still a little apprehensive. I heard that twins usually start early. If this is the case, then she may be due next month. Murong Cheng called and said that he would try his best to arrange work this month and come back to accompany her to wait for the delivery next month. He counted the time, confinement after giving birth, and then almost winter vacation, just in time to pick up his wife, children, and mother, and go back to Zionghai for vacation together. A plan is a plan, and whether it can be carried out smoothly according to the plan seems to depend on fate. I held her belly and thought, you guys have to be good, don't come out too early. It would be too embarrassing if it happened during the trial. The old lady's case was postponed for a week because of the October holiday. As in the past, in order not to affect her state, I deliberately did not read any relevant news during this period. I don't go on Weibo, don't watch TV, refuse interviews, and cut off almost all contact with the outside world except for a few relatives and friends. The family knew her habits, and did not mention the outside world's evaluation of the case in front of her. Finally, when the day of the trial came, I drove to the court, and the court was surrounded by people, almost impenetrable. There were not only media reporters, but also local residents, those with dogs and cats, those who raised hamsters, and those who carried rabbit cages. I was startled by this mighty formation. There were too many people, and the pets whose leashes were not fastened were running around in the crowd, and the scene was chaotic. The bodyguards escorted I to the courthouse. When Shao Jing received the news, he was also afraid that something might happen to her, so he hurriedly called a few bailiffs to come out to meet her. How did this happen? I asked as he walked. She was so shocked. When she was a prosecutor, she couldn't handle many major cases. When she was a lawyer, she also experienced many controversial cases. She has been interviewed by reporters, appeared on TV shows, and the headlines are no surprise, but never before has a case attracted such a huge crowd. Why? Compared with those murders, this is really a trivial matter. Why is it so? Shao Jing said from the side, a person may not encounter rape or robbery once in his life, and it is even more impossible for everyone to encounter serial murderers. Sometimes, crime is too far away from people's lives, but who doesn't have a pet? From childhood to old age, who has never kept a pet? I'm afraid there are very few. After sending I to the door of the trial hall, Shao Jing raised his hand and patted her on the shoulder. The rights of pets are more and more closely related to people, we must work hard. I was in a daze. Has it risen to this height? She squeezed the material in her hand and nodded her head. Walking into the courtroom, this time, everything is reversed. She became the prosecutor. Your Honor, the prosecution requests to summon witnesses. Mr. Su Lin standing on the prosecutor's seat, I spoke resolutely. Su Lin is the defendant in this case, the murderer of the dog. The condition for the judge to agree to hear the case is that only one witness is allowed to be summoned. Musa thought twice, rejected the female college student's kindness, and also gave up letting the old lady appear in court. She chose the defendant. Direct, fast, and most clearly let the jury see the truth. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1155. When Su Lin stepped onto the witness stand, people in the auditorium whispered. He looks very gentle, wears glasses, a clean suit jacket, looks like a company executive, and he doesn't look like a cruel person. Judging from his expression, Su Lin was quite uncomfortable sitting on the witness stand, probably because he didn't expect that he would cause such a big trouble. Su Lin had a bit of shame and embarrassment on his face. Mu Zi asked him, Mr. Su Lin, do you know the old lady sitting there? Su Lin nodded, I know. How did you know each other? I go to restaurants to eat, and every time I see that old lady picking up trash nearby. Mu Zi asked again, when you saw her, did you see a puppy following her? Su Lin hesitated a little this time, and replied, I see. Can you describe to the jury what kind of dog that is? White, mixed with some miscellaneous hair, like Peking BA skewers. Is it the dog in the photo? Mu Zi suddenly held up a photo and showed it in front of the jury members. The tragic situation made people subconsciously dodge their eyes and couldn't bear to look directly. Su Lin's face turned pale, and he pursed his lips tightly. The defense lawyer was also stunned, and then immediately stood up, No. Your Honor, the jury already knew that my client killed the dog. The facts are clear. There is no need to publicly display such uncomfortable photos in court. Without waiting for the judge to speak, Mu Zi said, Your Honor, I can change the photo. After all, I changed a photo, and then another, each of which was a scene of the old lady and the puppy together, warm and peaceful. In stark contrast to the one just now. Defense lawyer. Mr. Su Lin, is this the dog? Mu Zi asked him again. Su Lin nodded, yes. Could you please tell me what happened on the day of the incident? I came back from working overtime at night, ate at a nearby restaurant, ordered a can of beer, and then saw a puppy across the street. It kept looking at me. Su Lin said slowly, I think it should be in look at the soda can in my hand. I have seen it pick up empty bottles from the road to the old lady. What happened later? Mu Zi asked. I waved at it, Su Lin said. The puppy probably thought I was going to give it the can, and ran over quickly. I bent down, put the beer in front of its nose, and asked if it wanted to take a sip, and then it licked. Did you just lick it? Mu Zi asked. In the police report, your words don't seem to be like that. Su Lin pursed his lips, as if he was a little embarrassed, and then said, after it has licked it, I will definitely not be able to drink it anymore, so, I picked it up and poured the remaining beer into its mouth. Mu Zi asked, how much did you drink? Su Lin shook his head, I don't remember clearly. Mu Zi smiled lightly, Mr. Su Lin, according to the police records, you told the police at that time that you fed almost 4 cans of beer, plus the half cans you fed before. Let's count it as 4.5 cans, right? Su Lin turned his face away uncomfortably, I guess. Mu Zi continued to ask, what did you do afterwards? That dog looks a little bad. I put it down. It. Su Lin seemed to have a dry mouth, pursed his lips repeatedly, hesitating. It was lying on the ground, twitching, shaking all the time. I guessing if it was going to die. I kicked it lightly with my foot. It rolled over and still twitched. Mr. Su Lin, Mu Zi's voice suddenly rose. Please try to be as precise as possible in your words when testifying. Is it a light kick, or a heavy step, or a hard kick? Any ambiguous the testimony will be suspected of perjury.